Putting all these together, we get one of the most famous identities in finance. It's called DuPont identity. It basically says ROE is equal to, there are two forms, I call them baby DuPont, ROA times EM. ROA equals PM times TAT. So these two are baby DuPont, and putting those together, you can write return on equity as product of three factors: profit margin, TAT, and EM. It, in a sense, decomposes ROE into its drivers. You can have a high return on equity because either you have higher profit margin, you're making a lot of money per dollar of sales, or higher total asset turnover, which means you're managing your assets more efficiently, or you have higher leverage, you have a lot of debt, or a combination thereof. So if you want to increase ROE, you need to increase at least one of those, if not all. All right. Now, related to ROE and ROA, we have two growth ratios. The first one, we call it internal growth rate. IGR. IGR is the answer to the following question. What is the maximum growth achievable without using any external funds of any kind? So next year, you're not gonna borrow more or you're not gonna raise more equity, okay? Just using internal funds alone, assuming these ratios, earnings ratios stay the same, what is the maximum growth you can achieve? And it turns out IGR is equal to ROA times, I'm gonna call this B, and actually I'm gonna call this A over 1 minus A, where A is equal to ROA times retention ratio. Where retention ratio is equal to 1 minus dividend payout ratio, and dividend payout ratio is equal to total dividends, cash dividends, divided by net income. So what, for each dollar of net income, how many cents dividend you pay out? Retention is how much of it is you keep within the fund. So let's calculate these for Kroger and Walmart. And you will get the, what you want to call, let's get the dividends first. You're going to get the dividends from the statement of cash flows. So consolidated statements of cash flow. Let's see, where are you? Oh, right here. Dividends paid. Since they're written as an outflow, I'm going to put a negative sign in front. Or let's do this. Let's call this retention ratio. Divide the dividends by net income. I mean, I calculated the payout ratio now, but if I do 1, of course this is going to be plus, because 1 minus minus is going to be plus. So on average, Walmart pretty much pays half of what they make as dividends, at least these 2 years. Let's calculate the same amount for Kroger. Okay, let's find statement of cash flows. Inventories, where art thou? And I'm going to divide that by net income. They pay out about 30% as dividends. So 1 plus that. And they keep about 67% on average, or about 2/3 in the firm. So if you think about it, which one do you think will be able to grow faster? They have roughly similar return on assets. Which one has more internal resources? Walmart or Kroger? Kroger has 2/3 retention ratio. Walmart has about half. So which one has higher internal resources?
Walmart?
No?
No.
Kroger.
Really?
They have higher retention ratio. Kroger pays only about 30% of their income as dividend. Walmart pays half. So of the new resources they generate, internal resources, it's your net income, that's the internal resource, they pay out half. But Kroger keeps a lot more inside the company. So everything else being the same, Kroger should be growing faster. So let's calculate IGR, which is ROA times retention ratio divided by 1 minus the same product, ROA times retention ratio. I think okay, let me times retention ratio divided by 1 minus so max Walmart can grow if they were to use only internal resources, no external resources of any kind. They're not going to borrow or they're not going to raise equity of any kind. They should expect a growth of about 2 to 3% next year. Why they're not keeping much of their earnings? I mean, they make about 4.5–5% on assets, but if you're not keeping a lot of those income, the amount that you make money off of is small. Let's calculate the same one for Kroger. It's much higher. Their average is about 2.75, even though they actually have lower ROA. Another growth number we're gonna calculate. It's called sustainable growth rate, or SGR. This SGR is answer to the following question: maximum growth rate achievable provided you keep that equity ratio the same. So you are allowed to use external resources, but when you do, you're going to keep that equity ratio same. For example, that equity ratio for Kroger is 4, right? Roughly. Their EM was 5. So if next year they decide to borrow $1 more or $4 more, they should also increase equity by $1. That's the kind of the idea. How much maximum rates of growth you can achieve, provided you don't change the leverage of the firm. And you probably guessed it. SGR is equal to, let's call it B divided by 1 minus B, where B is ROE times retention ratio. Okay?